Last week, nearly 30,000 more people filed for unemployment for the first time.
Welcome to Circuit Breakers. My name is Dallas. That there is Taylor. Now, a little bit of a special edition episode because there's no race going on. We're still in between Mexico City and Jeddah. Boy, oh boy, was there a fun little piece of information that came across our desks. Now, Taylor, I will hand this over to you because you are the one that suggested we actually record an episode of the podcast doing this.
Yeah, so if you're all good friends with Dallas like I am, you would know that Dallas has been seeking employment for the better part of a year.
Yeah,
like truly looking for it. You know, he's taking odd jobs. He's podcasting a lot, making these dreams come true, but also is looking for something a little more concrete,
something that can pay the bills.
And as luck would have it, Dallas has also been historically the biggest supporter of Neo 333, ERT. And now Cupra Race Co. In fact, you own stocks in Neo. You bought stocks when you took on that team in our fantasy league.
And I've held on to them. They have not moved. Actually, they've moved. They've gone down, but they have remained in my possession.
Yeah. So, you know, as luck would have it, it appears that Cupra is finally throwing little old Dallas a bone. And that it is stopping at nothing to make sure that you get your shot at becoming a full-time member of this race team. Like, historically, you can look back to even all of our episodes. Dallas, not only do you bring a critical eye to what's happening on track, but you bring a loving ignorance to what's happening off track.
Right.
You choose to turn the other cheek and give everyone the benefit of the doubt, even if it's potentially shit in their pants.
Right. And understanding that any team and any driver can win. And that's the sort of mindset that you need on a race team,
yes,
on any sort of race team. So Kiro, which I understand we have a bit of American accents because everyone else is saying Cupra Kiro, but we call it Kiro here at Circuit Breakers. Kiro is in search of a new race engineer, full-blown job listing. And as someone who has just sent countless applications, tweaked the resume countless times, written countless cover letters, I feel like what better way to get on Kiro's radar than to dedicate an entire episode of this podcast to basically a big old pitch on why I am the next great Kiro race engineer.
And frankly, like, if this is how the podcast ends because you get hired full time at Kiro and we don't have time to record anymore, that's a better end to this than any other option. So, and the weirdest thing is of all of this, I know that we're kind of tongue in cheek joking. I actually think that Kiro would be really lucky to have you on their staff. I mean, believe it or not, their Instagram marketing directors could use quite the insane ideas that you can put out to continue their like absolute manic episodes of displaying these drivers in the weirdest ways possible.
They're the pinnacle of the entire league, dare I say all of motorsports as far as social content goes. Yeah. They're on fire.
The fact that they have been able to consistently attempt to make David Beckmann look cool and not give up is amazing to me. They are relentless. They're trying to make him look cool. There's nothing you can do to make that guy look cool. I don't care how he sits on the front tire of that car. He's never going to look cool.
Well, here's the thing. That's why I'm applying to this position and you're not, because I think David Beckmann looks like an absolute stud.
I'm Kiro's worst nightmare. They do not want me. I'm a bad apple. You, on the other hand, you bring the golden retriever energy to this team frankly, Dan Ticktum would probably need for a world championship.
Well, you had said, and I played this over and over again when I was editing it in the Mexico City episode. You said Dan Ticktum probably doesn't like me and won't like me.
Dan Ticktum does not like you. I can already tell you. He has seen your clips.
So I think it's a fair assumption that I would be engineering for Mr. Beckmann.
Yeah, he doesn't know you because he does his life outside of racing is clubs, and they don't listen to podcasting clubs, only beats.
Yeah. Yep. Well, let's get into this position a little bit and kind of learn a little bit more about what Cupra Kiro is looking for in their next race engineer. So for the position overview, you report to the chief race engineer. You will play a critical role in managing all trackside technical aspects with a focus on well-orchestrated procedures, prioritizing with an S because this is a proper English company and posting, prioritizing communication between supporting engineers and real-time data analysis to extract the best performance from the team, driver, and car. So small paragraph, big ask right off the rip. Obviously with a race engineer, you got to come ready. And so this is one thing where it's going to be a little bit of a change up because I don't have, your standard traditional motorsport experience. That doesn't mean that I can't do all of this stuff. I don't know. When you read this overview, Taylor, what pops out? What do you think? Like, oh yeah, that easily translates.
Well, the first thing that pops into my head is that we're way out of our league immediately. And also, I think Kiro might be out of their league immediately. Because I know a couple of races where none of this happened. And maybe that's why this job posting is open, so they're looking. But if I have, basically, Dallas, if we have the ability to recognize none of this happened in a race, I feel like that gives us the foresight to know what not to let happen, right?
The bar is very low, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah. Well, here's the thing. They're turning a new leaf, right? We're all hopeful. They're turning a new leaf. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to get another Sergio Sette camera blow up on the radio, chewing them out for not even understanding the assignment that you have to finish the race with a set amount of energy.
Yeah, well, my thought process with that, because everything is tied to technology. I've been caught red-handed on this show using ChatGPT to calculate wrong numbers of championship odds going into the final weekend of the race.
Hey, there's an option. Maybe ChatGPT can be a tool that you use for race engineering.
I think it would be perfect because, full disclosure, there is a custom ChatGPT that's been made for the show called Pascal.exe. Now, is that the actual Pascal.exe? Absolutely not. It still makes a lot of mistakes. But I feel like if I just prompt the GPT during a race of like, my driver is gone 10 laps, there's 20 laps to go, the battery says 70%, how much energy conservation do they need to cross the finish line? It'll shit out an answer and I'll say it over the radio.
Oh, so you're gonna bring not only the listed things here, but also an understanding of how to provide prompts for ChatGPT to do all these things more efficiently. It's almost as if you discovered critical thinking.
Yeah.
Like you're going to put in so many quality parameters to all of these things to have Pascal spit out the right answer that you almost could just do this job without having to do that.
Yeah, there's a shorthand to it as well. Instead of going into great detail, typing out a prompt in the middle of a race, you just go, Beckmann almost shit, what do ? And then it'll know. It'll know.
If I was reading this resume, I would immediately feel like you've moved at least halfway up the list.
Yeah, because who knows how many other bullshit applications. I will say this, though. This will be the one and only application that comes with its own podcast companion to the application.
Yeah, I'm ready to see what happens. Okay, so your key responsibilities here, Dallas. You will be overseeing all aspects of one of the team's cars. Beckmann, 100%, ensuring smooth, compliant, and high-performance operations. As we've discussed, you are working on it consistently. You're thinking smarter, not harder. Or you're working smarter, not harder, right? Promote effective communication and teamwork amongst mechanics, engineers, and of course, the most important thing, the driver, because we're assuming it's Beckmann, but it easily could be the tick man himself.
Yeah. So on that bullet point, Taylor,
yes,
everything going great. You just give a high five. I think you're doing an amazing job so far in this recording. Thank you. You're doing great. And I think, as long as we communicate effectively to try and make this show the best that we can make it, we're doing everything we're supposed to do. So there you go. An effective communicator and also kind of, a catalyst of inspiration.
But Dallas, I think one of the most important things with effective communication, which is something that I probably struggle with far more than you do, but this is where I'm probably going to succeed. Sometimes you can't be a pushover. Sometimes you've got to just put Dan over your knee and smack his ass and say, listen up, you're overusing. So figure it out. And I don't think Dan has been talked to like that in a ERT Neo now Kiro race seat. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's the tool that's missing.
Well, I think I'm just from a physical standpoint, I would be a daunting figure in the paddock. And I do have a sturdy knee to lay people over and give them a proper spanking when they need it. So I won't enjoy it. I won't get any pleasure out of it. It'll hurt. But I think what needs to be done. And I feel like I could do that.
That's right. And you'll communicate it very clearly while it's happening.
Right. Very loudly to everyone so everyone knows, kind of make an example. Knock some heads together. Can you give me an
example right now? Like what would be an example in which, like, let's say Dan is not listening to orders and is overspending. What would your plan of attack be? Hypothetical.
First off, he's not doing what he's doing. And we're talking about in race, like as the race is going on.
Yeah, of course.
I am going to signal over for someone on the team to go grab one of his signature hats. And I'm going to radio over to Dan and be like, Dan, I have your hat. I will take away your hat if you do not make drastic changes on track right now. You will not get your hat until we see improvements. It could be next race, could be the race from now on. But your hat privileges have been revoked as of right now, unless we can see some sort of improved performance. Let's go from 20th to, maybe 18th. Let's just try that.
See.
And that's just phase one. If I get lip from that, then I start to tear the hat a little bit. I go through on my threat to take away his hat, which his hats are super cool.
Got it. I see. So yeah, you're giving him like an ultimatum, essentially. You're doing ultimatums,
right?
Which historically always work really well.
Yeah.
Be it tariffs or ruining your closest neighbor's relationship in a trade war, or even potentially destroying the hat of the driver you're now the engineer of. Ultimatums always work. Let this go out to everyone. When promoting effective communication and teamwork comes down to two things. One, ultimatum, and two, actions. So act on those ultimatums. Don't let it just be talk, okay? Even if your job relies on it, you tear that hat a little.
Right. Yep. So do you know what a kilowatt hour is? Of course you don't. So head on over to the official Circuit Breaker store and pick up your What the F is a Kilowatt Hour shirt today. Link to the store in the description. See site for details.
Execute efficient run plans to maximize learning and data collection. Dallas, you ace this. You are not only looking at the analytics of how good our pod is doing constantly, but you're also doing the analytics of how bad our pod is doing constantly, which is one of the hardest jobs you can do. So I think you're already in line. This is the story of Neo. If you can analyze how good you're doing, you also got to be able to analyze how bad you're doing. And I think that you've got that in spades right away.
Even though it hurts, right? You put your heart and soul into something, you just keep pushing on. So yeah, easy.
Yeah. Make swift, informed decisions on car setup and optimization based on data analysis, pre-event sensitivities, and inputs from the team. Now, Dallas, as an EV driver, I know you have a lot on your hands when it comes to setting your driving setup each and every day. Is this correct?
Yes, 100%.
Do you have any examples of what you might do in order to make those quick, informed decisions for your vehicle as you prepare for a day, say maybe driving in the snow?
Yeah. Driving in the snow or not even just in the snow, but in the cold, just as physics work, batteries drain quicker when there is a low temperature. So making that quick decision, driving in the snow or driving in cold weather, to not turn the heat on to preserve energy. One thing that historically with the Neo 333 and the ERT, we haven't seen with Kiro yet. But this team historically struggled with energy conservation. And sometimes it hurts. It's cold as hell. 32 below, or below 32 degrees or below 0 degrees Celsius, below freezing. It's cold. It's not comfortable.
That's doomsday for an EV.
Right.
Below 32, that's doomsday for an EV. You're not getting anywhere with that thing.
But you have to push through it. Don't turn the heat on. Don't go for those creature comforts. Push through, work towards your goal, cross your finish line, arrive at your destination.
Well, fantastic. Maintain detailed records of car setup, feedback, components, changes. Now, also, you can't just have it all, right? There's some things that you're going to have to learn. And that's actually sometimes one of the best things you can do when applying for a job is, I don't know this, but I'm an eager learner and I'm excited. And that way, because I don't come in with prior knowledge of a system, I can integrate into your system much easier because I'm learning it top to bottom. I can find those efficiencies and deficiencies in simple things like maintaining detailed records of car steps. If you're just doing it on an Excel sheet, well, I got good news. Dallas has a ton of background in Excel, but I'm sure he's going to have something even better for you to work with.
No, I am so malleable for this position. I can be moved and twisted and shaped into anything that needs to be for this role, for the sake of this team that I love so much.
That's right. And then the last thing on your key responsibilities are to ensure vehicle compliance with all sporting and technical regulations, escalating faults to the appropriate departments. So, I think it's safe to say, Dallas, that if it were maybe you last year, say Milano, was that the race at where
Misano.
the spring gate happened?
Misano, yeah.
Misano. If it were you there, Misano, I think you would have walked away with a trophy. If you were Da Costa's engineer, you knew that spring wasn't right from the start. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Detail-oriented, but also a degree of naivete would be beneficial. I didn't know anything about this spring. It's not my fault. He crossed first. You can't do anything about that. You can't change that. And then, protest the FI, do all that. Yeah,
flex a soft power, persuade, and deflect, right? So that blame does not rest on your shoulders, but rather the institution at large's shoulders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's your fault. It's not mine. It's not my team's. We've never done anything wrong.
Well, then, I think that's going to take us to the next section, right?
So this is at race and test events key responsibilities. There are key responsibilities at the factory, which for the most part, they're pretty straightforward. Contribute to defining future car requirements for long-term performance improvements. Provide input in performance review meetings, guiding supporting engineers on focus area. You know, just easy, basic stuff of being an engineer.
Yeah, and from past understandings, you worked on a dealership. You know a thing or two about cars, so none of this is going to be new to you.
Right.
Right?
I can't necessarily.
You have background.
Yeah, I can't throw a car up on jacks and plop the engine out and easy peasy do that. But I can.
But you have tried.
I have tried. And I can sit there and watch, and I can be like, what if we did this? And then people more skilled at that trade than me, which there are plenty, they can just do it and be like, that was great. You did a great job. You know, high five, fist bump.
And sometimes that's the best skill you can have. One of the strongest leadership skills you can have is to know that you can't know everything. And you can't be the best at everything. Right. It's about delegation and using the best person at your disposal in order to accomplish the best quality task. Because the second your ego gets in the way of your ability to make sure that this thing is done by just doing it yourself, come on, that's not fair to you, the other people working on this car, and most importantly, your driver.
Right.
So it takes courage to sit down and ask for help. And that's what a good leader does. And I know you are fantastic at asking for help when you really need it, including for this podcast.
Right. And historically for this team, they haven't been the greatest. I haven't been the greatest either, but let's, you know, take this leap of faith and try to achieve greatness together as a team, because it is a team sport. Yeah. Yes, there are just two butts in those two cars' seats. There's a huge team just working to achieve greatness. Why not bring me along with you?
That's right. So I think it's about time that maybe we go over a little bit, maybe some of your qualifications here, Dallas. What are you on paper bringing to this team?
Well, I do have a college degree. I do have that piece of paper. It's at the very bottom of my shelf, collecting a lot of dust. So I've kind of checked off that societal requirement to go and get a college degree. At the same time, and in the same vein of just checking boxes, I've had my driver's license since I was like 17. Been driving for a long time. Now, competitively, no. But for myself, to try and get to where I need to go, all day long, baby. So I'm bringing that.
Yeah.
And
if you knew where Dallas lives, it might as well be the Nürburgring every single day.
Yeah, that is a great perspective building on where I live. It basically is the Black Forest.
You are constantly utilizing regen on the green hell, in and out every single day.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. You know, the surrounding roads by my place, I know the hills so well that, I mean, I often get to the bottom of the hills with more energy than what I started with. When you know a track or when you know a road well enough, that's a good skill, and that can translate to teaching those skills to the drivers.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, as we've already discussed, proven team leadership. Honestly, greatest team leader I've had in a podcast goes to you, without a doubt. But also, Dallas, I think this is the real key factor. And I know that when you get into that interview room with these folks after they see I know that this is going to be the one that stands out. This is going to be a thing. But a passion for motorsport and innovation and a sustainable understanding of racing, a love of sustainable racing, sustainability in motorsport, something that Formula E has been pushing for going on 11 years now. You're passionate about it. Am I wrong?
Oh, not at all. Formula E is my introduction to live in-person motorsports. I played racing games for years as a kid, but never thought to tune into a NASCAR race or a Formula One race or any of the other racing series until you in all your genius and creativity were like, I want to do a Formula E fantasy league. Do you want to join? I'm like, that sounds pretty fun. I do drive an electric car, so I already identify with what it's like to drive these cars. And it's fell into it instantly. Formula One. I think I've said it before on the show. That's my top. That's where I started, and that's where I want to be. So it's not like, yeah, I like racing, and I'll just, I'll shop my resume to this electric league. Like, it's whatever. It's a stepping stone for me to get, to WEC or Formula One or whatever. No, landing me at a Formula E team. I mean, let alone Cupra Kiro.
Yeah, Dallas wants to retire after a long life of servitude to this series.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to. Yeah. You want to go in the way of Scott Elkins,
right? Being pulled away, making a tough decision. Which, we haven't really talked about that, but
that's fine. But I think that your passion,
yes,
shines brightly through in every aspect of who you are and what Formula E means to you.
Right.
And I frankly am humbled with how much you've taken away from this experience. So what's next, Dallas?
Well, we have to talk about the practical experience that I have on how I could actually engineer a race for a driver. And of course, that starts with the sim. Now, for the last little over a year, I ended up getting Assetto Corsa, old game. It's from like 2014, but it's heavily moddable.
Stays up to date. Yep, stays up to date.
There is a Gen 3, not the Evos, but there's a Gen 3 mod where you can drive that car around a bunch of, community-made Formula E tracks, as well as your standard tracks. So with Assetto Corsa, apart from maybe like a couple different sessions of like just trying around other cars, it has almost exclusively been in the Gen 3. 1 week and 15 hours of total driving time in that Gen 3 car. Now we have some important stats here on the screen. I want to know
what the situation that created a 708 foot jump was.
So
like I'm trying to fathom like really what that distance is. Like how many yards, like what length of a football field is that,
let's find out.
ChatGPT on speed dial.
Yeah. So, that's 236 yards. So that's 2 1/3 football fields of airtime.
What was the situation? Like
so
how? But beyond that, I do think that there is a practical skill here. Like on this, distance driven, time driven, average speed, all important. Longest jump, probably less important depending on when the sausage curbs return. But
right.
But the 2,882 crashes, that to me actually stands out because that is you are coming in with an experience of what not to do. And that is sometimes more important in the grand scheme of things. You have the foresight to recognize when things can go wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. And they do go wrong. I mean, that car is very squirrely at the beginning of races in Assetto Corsa. Tires are cold. You have way too much torque on those back wheels and you crash. You crash a lot. I will say you can't get that from this data set, but the amount of crashes and incidents that I've been involved in has slowly gone down. I think it's a bit of an exponential decay, if you will. A lot of crashes at the beginning, getting used to it, and then bringing it down and now racing cleaner for over 17,000 miles.
How many miles have you put on your vehicle, your EV? Is it 17,000 in the past how long?
Oh, no. I've had my EV for 7 years and have put on, I think, about 100,000 miles. So
okay, so there you go. So all combined, 117,000 miles.
Right. Now, that's a good point to bring up because how does that, like a sim is a sim, right? That's not real life.
Yeah.
But how does my electric vehicle stack up against Kiro's Porsche 99X WCG3? Well, let's take a look at it. First off, they're both electrically powered. That's obvious. Now, there's a little bit of a caveat with the Chevrolet Volt. It is a plug-in hybrid, and after that battery is drained, it then functions as a regular hybrid, gas and electric. But just going off of the battery power, 111 kilowatts on the Volt compared to 350 on the Gen 3 Evo.
You're running a Gen 1 right now, frankly.
Right.
And and you can get through a whole race without swapping cars, right? So that's something to consider. You have worked around the limitations of what Gen 1 Evo was laughed out the room for most of its existence.
Right. They weren't front wheel drive though, were they? That would have been hilarious.
They were not. No, that would have been hysterical, but I wouldn't have pulled it past them. Held it back, it's
and range is close. Charge time, obviously, that's probably the biggest difference. I have to sit and wait for half a day to get a full charge, where if attack charge ever becomes a safe thing, that's 30 seconds. Now that would be new territory for me.
Maybe Dallas and Cairo can work together on just bringing attack charge to the masses. Pit boost is what it's called now.
Obviously, it's a step up. You said at the beginning of this, like, we're way out of our leagues on this one, but you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. You lose 100% of the races that you don't try and start.
And that's what's going to help you stand out. And not only just your first day, but your last day, is that you're a little different.
Yeah. We've grown together. That's pretty much the position. That is how my experience kind of overlaps. I'll let Cupra Kiro, HR team be the judge of that. But the last thing that I just wanted to go over was just the cover letter. And obviously Kiro is going to receive this when I submit this application, because this will kind of be the YouTube short or the Instagram reel that we tag Kiro in incessantly until we get blocked.
Push, push. Well, clearly what went wrong there is bad race engineering, if you ask me. And that's why I'm here. As an electric motorsport enthusiast and co-host of the Circuit Breakers Formula E podcast, I've closely followed Kiro's evolution in the FIA ABB Formula E Championship with great admiration.
I'm gonna pull this off to a safe spot.
From Neo 333 to ERT and now Cupra Kiro, your journey has exemplified bold moves and innovative solutions. In that same spirit, I submit my application for the race engineer position. Not as a traditional candidate, but as one committed to pushing boundaries in unexpected ways.
While hiring a content creator for a race engineer role might seem unconventional, it's precisely the type of bold move that aligns with Formula E's ethos of breaking barriers and redefining norms. My passion for motorsport, problem-solving ingenuity, and commitment to collaboration make me an asset. As a versatile storyteller, I aim to bring the most compelling narrative to the Cupra Kiro paddock. What I may lack in engineering credentials, I more than make up for with passion and simulation experience. Sorry, Dan. With nearly 200 hours spent piloting the Gen 3 car in Assetto Corsa, I've developed a deep understanding of the car's dynamics. This hands-on familiarity with the latest Formula E platform has instilled a driver-focused perspective that could help bridge the gap between technical data and on-track performance. Additionally, my commitment to energy efficiency extends beyond the virtual cockpit. For example, I'm the type to always flip off a light switch when leaving a room. I would be thrilled to join Kiro Race Co. as the next race engineer and prove how my unique background can energize your operations. May the road ahead be fast, efficient, and electrifying. Wrong way, bucko.
How long did it take you to copy paste it from ChatGPT? How many parameters you put into that ChatGPT prompt?
It was no more than like 4 prompts. ChatGPT knows me pretty well by now.
Yeah, it knows you drive a Volt, and it knows how much you love Formula E, and knows you turn off the light switch.
Yep. So yeah, that is our collective shot at trying to get me hired as a race engineer. And at the least,
step by step, piece by piece. The reality of it is, Dallas, any race team would be lucky to have you in the paddock. With how tense that is, to have someone as charming, charismatic, gregarious as yourself, good Lord, that changes everything. That's what a team needs to really succeed in this ever-changing format.
Well, thank you for your kind words. I would not be in this position without you.
If I didn't get you fired?
Yeah. No, you did not get me fired. But this whole podcast has opened this potential door to do something that I never thought I would even be applying for. This also isn't my first time trying to break into professional sports. I did declare for the NBA draft when I was in college, and no, I'm not that good of a basketball player. So I've always been a big dreamer. And I think as closing remarks in this episode, this kind of weird podcast application, dream with me, Cairo, because I've been supporting you for a long time. And I think it'd be great if we could support each other.
Dream on.
With that being said, Jeddah is right around the corner. So Taylor will be back here with post Jeddah coverage here in what?
Oh man, weeks? I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see how many races Dan Ticktum wins. This year, we're turning our tone around for the sake of your application.
You are turning your tone around. I think I said the last time we looked at the Cairo graph against Neo, I said, I don't know, maybe there could be a podium. And you're like, Dallas, that is not going to happen. But I like your moxie. So you don't have to be cheeky.
Piece by piece, Dallas. Piece by piece.
Yep. Yeah, Cupra Kiro, you have my my information, my email, my phone number. Go ahead and hit me up if you want to schedule an interview. I'm only probably a 15-hour flight away from, where is this job?
It's Silverstone, baby.
Yep. So yeah, I could be there. I could be there pretty quick for an interview. So let me know. And for everyone else, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we will see you in just a little bit's time after Jeddah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.